Welcome, everyone, to the 2020 NCTM Leadership Conference. This session is on building leaders within your affiliate. My name is Dave Ebert, and I'm going to tell you right off the bat, if you want to contact me, feel free to send me an email, feel free to reach out on Twitter, feel free to check out my school website. And I am a high school teacher at Oregon High School in southern Wisconsin. And I'll share a little bit about my leadership journey later on, but I just completed a 3-year term on the board of directors of NCTM. And as a just passed board member, I get to share a gift with all of you before we start. So my gift for you is a $20 discount for all of you when you renew your membership with NCTM. Now, I'd also encourage you to share this discount with any teacher you know, any administrator you know. So anyone who renews their membership or joins NCTM as a premium member can type in board 20 at the checkout for a $20 discount on their membership. So even if you don't gain a whole lot from this session itself, at least you can save a couple bucks next time you renew your membership through NCTM. All right, so let's get into this session. So here's our agenda. There's really two main agenda items. Now, we all know that in order for us to have a healthy affiliate or other educational organization, we must find ways to develop the leaders of tomorrow. So we're going to focus on answering two questions. Now, the main part of our presentation today will be answering the first question. How do we recognize and build leadership within our affiliate or organization? I'm also going to touch on the second agenda item. How can our current affiliate leaders become leaders within NCTM? So if you're thinking about becoming a leader, taking that next step in your leadership with NCTM, I'll give you some tips for how you can do that as well. Now, before we start, I have a few disclaimers to share. I'm going to be talking a lot in this session on affiliate leadership, but if you're thinking about using these same ideas for your school or your district or other educational organization, everything in here could apply to one of those organizations as well. But I'm really going to focus on that affiliate leadership. Another disclaimer, I'm going to talk a lot about finding and developing teacher leaders. There's often a void in teacher leadership in our educational organizations. So I'm going to talk a lot about how to develop teacher leaders, but this isn't only for developing teacher leaders. And this third disclaimer is really the biggest one. These ideas I'm going to share seem simple, but anyone in a leadership position will tell you that this is really difficult. Developing leadership is really hard to do. And another part of that disclaimer, I am not an expert on this. I am learning and I'm continuing to learn and grow with how to develop and become leaders. And I'm sharing some of what I've learned, and hopefully through further conversations, I can continue to learn from each and every one of you. Now, I'm really happy that you're attending the NCTM Leadership Conference as an affiliate leader. So I was the president of the Wisconsin Mathematics Council, and I attended the NCTM Leadership Conference 4 times. And I learned so much every time I attended. One big thing I learned is that our affiliates across the country and across Canada have very similar needs. Every affiliate struggles with recruiting authors for their journal, recruiting presenters for their conference, recruiting leaders for their committees and for their board. So what I encourage you to do is to, well, first of all, a good thing for you to do as an affiliate leader, see if you can find the time to go to another affiliate conference. Find a state that borders yours and go to their affiliate conference, and you will be surprised at how much you learn from these other affiliate conferences. Go to more NCTM events. Leadership conferences are great, but going to conferences is another way for you to learn and grow. And then I also encourage you to partner with other affiliate leaders. In Wisconsin, we have a partnership with the leaders in Illinois, and we share our presenter names and contact information. We share what's working for each organization and what's not, and it's a great way for each of us to learn and grow from each other. So my story here, here's my journey. So I started as a member of the Wisconsin Mathematics Council. And at some point, I was encouraged to present an idea I had at their annual conference. And I'll tell you what, I still remember that first presentation. There were not many people in the room, but after the presentation, uh, a woman came up to me and asked me if I could have all my leftover handouts that I did not give out. And I gave them all to her, and she said, "This was great. I'm going to use this in my class next week." And that statement right there just built me up so much. That statement just encouraged me so much. If it wasn't for that person, I might not have ever presented again. But that person's comment just empowered me to continue presenting and continue on my leadership journey. So after I had presented a few times, I was encouraged to take a leadership role. From there, I became a board member of the Wisconsin Mathematics Council. I was then elected the president of the Wisconsin Mathematics Council. When my term was done, I joined a couple different NCTM committees, and from there I was elected to the board of directors of NCTM. So that's my membership, or my leadership journey through my affiliate and through NCTM. So I want you to reflect on your journey. So take a few seconds here, take about 30 seconds to reflect on your leadership journey. How did you become a leader within your organization? What's the story behind your journey? If we were meeting face to face, I'd encourage you to turn and talk and share some of those journeys. But thinking about your own journey, I would guess that someone has encouraged you to take the next step in your leadership journey every step of the way. People have encouraged all of us to become leaders, and we must encourage our next generation to also become leaders. Okay, so what I want to share with you next, this graphic here is really going to be the focus of our learning today. And I call this the leadership triangle. Now, the difficulty with developing leaders in our organization is we too often focus on how to develop leaders for the top part of the triangle. We might ask ourselves, how are we going to develop future board members? What we really need to do is view leadership development in the bigger picture of this entire triangle and think to ourselves, how are we going to expand our membership? Because many of the best leaders in our region or in our state might have never even heard of our organization. How do we get those people into our organization as members? And then how do we recruit those members to take the next step and become presenters at our conference, or authors in our journal, or volunteers at our events? Then how do we get those people to become committee members and do the work of our organization? And from our committee members, how do we recruit them to become board members and then to become leaders, perhaps our board president? So we're going to talk about this big picture of this entire triangle. We're going to take one step at a time, and we're going to start at the bottom there with our members. So every organization has maybe dozens or hundreds or thousands of members, and some questions we should ask ourselves are, why should someone become a member of our affiliate or of our organization? And then something else we should ask ourselves, what mechanisms do we have in place to increase or maintain the membership level of our affiliate or organization? Now, I realize membership is a big issue for every affiliate across the country, and even an issue for NCTM itself. We could have multiple sessions on membership, and I'm not going to answer all of the issues that we have dealing with membership, but I just want to present some ideas for us to think about. So first of all, every board needs to ask themselves, why should someone become a member of our affiliate? And usually the answers involve these 4 items, plus or minus a couple different items. So members usually receive some sort of publication. Members usually receive a professional development discount. There's oftentimes some sort of grants or other benefits to being a member. To me, the biggest The biggest member benefit is this last idea, the sense of community, that we are all part of something bigger. Okay, so what do we do then? What mechanisms do we have in place to increase or maintain that membership level? So oftentimes affiliates think about how are we going to recruit new members? But it goes beyond that because we not only need to recruit new members, we need to maintain our current members, and we need to try to bring back those expired members. So let's just talk about each of these real briefly. To recruit new members, I've seen a lot of affiliates doing a lot of really good things out there to try to make this happen. One thing I've seen is that affiliates have a university partnership where they have a student member, a student affiliate within their own affiliate. Maybe there's gift memberships. So maybe as a teacher who's a member, when I have a student teacher, I can give them a gift membership to the organization. Or maybe if there's a new teacher down the hall, you can give them a gift membership to join the organization. I've seen affiliates that have new member welcome kits where they give certain items, pencils, erasers that have the affiliate logo on them to potential new members. Now, beyond recruiting just new members, we need to maintain current members. Now I'm going to flip back a slide, and I would argue that if these benefits are strong enough, that really helps you in your efforts to maintain your current members. And then bring back expired members. So you should all have the opportunity to look at a membership list and think about ways to bring back people who were members into your organization again. And I've got 3 items at the bottom here, and these are key. Personal invitations are key. If someone receives an email or a letter, they might just ignore it. A personal invitation, though, is a key way to get people into your organization. Be persistent. Don't count on it happening right away, and have a deliberate plan. Maybe within your board, share resources, share ways that you're going to do this, but have a deliberate plan to make it happen. Now, like I said, increasing membership is huge, and we could talk for this for days, but we're really talking about leadership here. So once you increase that base of your membership, now we need to think about how are we going to recruit people from our members to become presenters, authors, and volunteers. Because at base, each of our organization has many, many members, but a limited number of them take that next step to become a presenter or an author or a volunteer. So let's think about that next step in the leadership triangle. So why should someone present at your conference? Why should someone write in your journal? Or why should someone come and volunteer at your events? And then what mechanisms do you have in place to recruit people to do these things, to present or write or volunteer? So let's think about why someone would do this. So oftentimes organizations offer a financial benefit to presenting at their conference. Perhaps they receive a free registration or a reduced rate registration. Oftentimes people have some sort of status associated with presenting or writing in a journal. So you might want to think about a letter from your affiliate president that goes to any author or any presenter's principal or superintendent, thanking them for allowing that person to present at their conference, or thanking them or recognizing them for writing in their journal. Something as simple as a letter like that is a huge benefit for teachers and might encourage more teachers to present or write or to do so again if they've done it once. Now, I think the biggest reason for doing these things is to share with others, that sense of community, that we are more than just our own classroom, that we can help others become better as well. All right, so what mechanisms do we have in place to recruit people to do this? We need to have a way to identify dynamic classroom teachers. If you are on your organization's board and you know someone in your district who's doing great things, you must recruit them to present at your conference. You must try to get them to write these great things down and submit a journal article. So not just from our own districts, but we need to identify teachers from other events. If there's a STEM event in our community, if there's a math competition, let's say there's a school that typically does well at the local math competition, Perhaps a leader from that school would be willing to write an article or present at a conference on their tips to building a math team. We should also look at other conferences. So if there's a science conference in your region, or if there's a conference in another state, could we recruit people to come and present at our conference? Or if someone has written somewhere, if written nationally or another state, could we encourage them to write for our state? Another real easy way to recruit is let's ask our presenters to write an article. So our presenters have all their ideas in place. Oftentimes it's a real simple transition to take that next step and write it as an article. We can ask our authors to present. Likewise, if an author has already written an article, it's a kind of an easy next step to present on what they wrote about. And again, I've got the same 3 items at the bottom of this slide. Personal invitations are huge. They're key. Be persistent. Keep asking those good people and be deliberate. Have a plan. If you split up work amongst your board, perhaps one board member can ask people presenting at a conference out of state. Perhaps another board member can ask people presenting at your local science conference. But have a deliberate plan to make it happen. Okay, so back to the leadership triangle. So we've got our base, our members, talked a little bit about how to recruit more members. We've got our next step of presenters, authors, and volunteers. And from these people, we typically draw our committee members. Now, here's where affiliates differ. A lot of affiliates have many committees. Many affiliates just have 1 or 2 committees. Let's just talk about how we can recruit people to be on those committees. So what you need to ask yourself is, well, what opportunities are there for people to become involved in committee work? Do you have many opportunities? Is it a limited number of opportunities? And then how do you recruit new committee members in your organization? So let's just think about those opportunities. Almost every affiliate has a conference planning committee. So you can think about the volunteers, the long-term volunteers at your conference. Those are great people to ask to join this committee. Think about your presenters, people who have done this before. They are great people to get onto your conference planning committee. Your journal probably has some sort of way of editing articles, some sort of committee that does that. So recruit those authors from your journal to help out by editing others' work. Now, you need to ask yourself as an organization, does your committee structure fit the necessary work of your organization? Now, some organizations have a position statement committee, some have a state standards committee, some have a membership committee. You need to think about what is the work that needs to be done, and do we have a committee structure in place to get that work done? Now, don't just create a committee for the sake of having a committee, but you think about this, the more leadership opportunities that your organization has, the more easy it is to get potential leaders onto your board. If your organization has a very small number of committees, there's a very small pool of people to select from when you're trying to think about board members. All right, and part of that, you need to build those leaders within your committees. Build up your committee chairs. Your committee chairs are your future board members, so you need to build them up and support them in their work. Okay, so how do you recruit people to be on those committees? So here's just some ideas for you. Perhaps each committee must add 1 new member each year. Oftentimes our committees are the same people over and over who are willing to do the work. Make it a mandate that every committee must add 1 new person every year. Or, going one step further, make it a mandate that every committee member must bring in 1 new member. This works well, especially if you have a smaller committee. If it's 4 people planning your conference, have those 4 people each bring in 1 new person, and now you have 8 people planning your conference. You might want to also consider having term limits or a rotation plan, especially if you have some committees with the same people and you really need some fresh blood in there. Maybe if there was a term limit and maybe if people rotated off of that committee, it would allow some new ideas to occur. Another idea is to require committees to include classroom teachers. Oftentimes, we have a membership within our organization that might be 90% classroom teachers, But our committees, the people doing the work, are only 25% classroom teachers. Perhaps require that you have classroom teacher makeup on your committees that's relatively close to the makeup in your entire organization. And again, three big items here. Personal invitations are key. Be persistent. Plan on asking multiple times and have a deliberate plan for doing so. Okay, back to our leadership triangle. So we're taking these baby steps up the triangle. Talked about how to recruit members, how to get those members to become presenters or authors, how to get them to become committee members, and now we're working on our board members. And again, the key is do not start by thinking about how do you recruit people to be on your board. Because in order to recruit good board members, you need to build every step of this leadership triangle. So when you think about your board, what is the process in your affiliate to become a member of your board? And then what mechanisms do you have in place to recruit and elect new board members for your affiliate or organization? So to become a member of your board, you need to really look in the mirror and think to yourself, is this a teacher-friendly process? Does the board have weekend and summer meetings? If the board meets during the week, does your organization reimburse your district, your members' district, their sub-costs? Do you have a limited number of meetings? You take care of as much business as you can through email or online to limit those number of meetings. Is being on your board family friendly? Even just changing the location of your meetings might make it better for those with families to make a little vacation out of things. And again, you should probably think about term limits. Do you have the same people on your board who have been there for years or even decades? Perhaps term limits might bring some fresh blood and might even make you look for those new members that you wouldn't have thought of looking about before. So what do you currently do? What mechanisms do you have in place to recruit and elect new board members? Are you grooming those committee leaders for board membership? Are they following that leadership triangle? To get on the board, can people self-nominate? Is it easy to nominate others? Is it an intimidating process? And really, you should try to make that process as simple as possible. And a good exercise for your current board is to have each of your board members identify and nominate one potential future board member. And again, personal invitations are key. Plan on being persistent and plan on having a deliberate plan for doing this. Okay, we have reached the tip of the leadership triangle, our board leadership. This is our board president. How do we recruit people to take these leadership roles within our board? Okay, so this is where affiliates vary. What positions constitute your board leadership? Do you have a president? Do you have a president-elect? A past president? Maybe a secretary? Maybe a treasurer? Maybe there's an executive committee to your board. And what mechanisms do you have in place to recruit and elect those leaders? So, do you have an executive committee? Is that executive committee elected? Is it selected by the president? How is that determined? Who is on that executive committee? What's your rotation of your president? Many affiliates have a president-elect for a year, a president for 1 or 2 years, and then a past president. And then, how do you recruit and elect those board leaders? If you have an executive committee, how are they selected or elected? Is it open to everyone on the board? Or is it the same people over and over? Is your president required to leave the board? There are affiliates where once the president has served his or her term, they must leave the board for an extended period of time. And this builds fresh leadership within that board. It forces that board to build fresh leadership. Okay, so we're going to get on to some homework. So at this time, your affiliate or your organization has some homework that they should do at their next board meeting. Here's what I'd like you to ask your leaders of your affiliate. Everyone on your board should reflect on how did you become a member? How did you become a volunteer? How did you become an author or a presenter? And how did you become a leader? So everyone on your board should think about that leadership triangle and think about the steps that they took along their leadership journey. And I would guess that many of your board members, if not every one of your board member, was strongly encouraged to take that next step along their leadership journey. Other questions to ask. So more homework for you. Okay, along that leadership triangle, how many people are at each level of the leadership triangle? How many members do you have? How many presenters? How many authors? How many volunteers? How many committee members? How many board members do you have in your organization? And then are these people representative? Meaning, if your membership consists of a certain percentage of classroom teachers, does your board also consist of that level of classroom teachers? Another question you should all consider is what structures does your affiliate have to build each level of the leadership triangle? How are you building up each of those levels? Next question, does your volunteer and committee structure lead to board leadership? Are they operating independently, or do you have a deliberate plan in place to build leaders through your volunteer and committee structure? And the structures you have, are they conducive to building new leaders, especially classroom teachers? So are these steps going to work for all of your members, especially your teachers? So let's take one last look at that leadership triangle. Now, big message here. It is not a simple solution to build leadership within an organization. So oftentimes we fail because we think about how are we going to build up people, or how are we going to recruit people to be our next board members? When really we need to think about how do we strengthen every step of the leadership triangle? How are we going to build people and encourage them every step of the way to become the future leaders in our organization? Okay, I'm going to shift gears a little bit. So what I want to talk about now is, let's say you've taken some of these steps. You're a leader on your board and you're thinking about becoming involved in NCTM. Now, I'm going to tell you that to become a leader in NCTM, I'm going to say, hey, let's still follow this leadership triangle. Because NCTM is an organization of thousands of members. From those thousands of members, there are presenters and authors and volunteers. There's a limited number of committee members. Those board members have probably built their NCTM resume along this pyramid before becoming members on the board. So let's talk about how to become a leader in NCTM by following the steps of the leadership triangle. So first of all, if you want to become an NCTM presenter, how do you do that? Well, NCTM currently has one annual meeting and 3 regional conferences every year. And if there's one coming to your area and you apply to present, don't be discouraged if you are not accepted. There's about a 40% acceptance rate. And I will tell you, my personal acceptance rate is less than 40%. So don't be discouraged if you submit a proposal and you're not accepted. Now, there's 2 links here that are going to help you. That first link is on NCTM's website, and it has submission and review guidelines from NCTM, things that they look for when they're looking at the different presentation proposals. That next link up there is a blog post by a guy named Robert Kaplinski, who looked at what do you need to know to apply to speak at an NCTM conference and what's going to help your acceptance rate. Will it help you to use certain keywords? Will it help you to try to hit some of the big topics? What are the different grade level acceptance rates, etc.? So I'd encourage you to look at each of these different links for ideas on how to become accepted as an NCTM presenter. Now, if you want to become an NCTM author, so NCTM's new journal is called Mathematics Teacher, Learning and Teaching PK through 12, or the abbreviation is MTLT. And MTLT has 3 different kinds of articles: front and center articles, feature articles, and focus articles. They also have a number of different departments. Now I'm going to encourage you, if you're thinking of becoming an NCTM author, departments are great starting points. You often have to write a lot less, and it's often easier to get in the door as an author in one of the departments. And again, at this website, on this slide, there's a list of author guidelines. There's an author toolkit. So if you're thinking of becoming an NCTM author, start by looking at those guidelines, and that will help you as you think about writing an article for one of the main features or for one of the departments in MTLT. Next, how do you become an NCTM volunteer? Well, first of all, I have up there, if there's a conference coming nearby to you, you can be a volunteer to help at those conferences, and it's a great way to get your foot in the door. Some other ways to volunteer, though, you could volunteer to review materials. And NCTM might send you materials a couple times per year. They might send you books or classroom materials and ask you to write a review on those materials. And you get to keep those materials, and then your review is published in their journal. And that link up there tells you how to get started with that. A more difficult volunteer job is to referee manuscripts. So people who write articles for MTLT, there are volunteers across the country who are refereeing those manuscripts and giving those authors ideas to make those manuscripts better. And if you want to gain experience doing that, you can follow that link on that slide as well. Okay, so next step up on that leadership triangle. How do you join an NCTM committee? Now, the first thing I'd recommend you do is to reach out to NCTM committee members. And if you look on NCTM's website, there's a list of every committee, and every committee there's a list of every member of those committees. So especially if you can find someone local to reach out to, but many of these committee members are, they're people just like you and me, and they're more than happy to help you if you have questions about the committee. Now, there's a lot of different committees. I've listed 3 specific ones: the Classroom Resources Committee, the Membership and Affiliate Relations Committee, and the Professional Development Services Committee. These 3 do work that is most relevant to a classroom teacher. In fact, I have served on 2 of these committees, and I highly recommend service for others. There's 6 other committees as well, and some of those might be more interesting to you. So if you're interested, there's a link on this slide where you can apply to serve on a committee. And it's not a rigorous application. It basically gets your name out there so they recognize that you are interested. So I'd encourage you, reach out to someone who's on the committees and then throw your hat in there and apply to serve on a committee. Okay, the next step on that leadership triangle. How do you get elected to the NCTM board? And again, right at the start, I've got reach out to NCTM board members. Talk to someone who's currently on the board, who has done it before, and think about, is this the kind of commitment that you are willing to make? Is this something that you are thinking would work for you personally and professionally? Before you think about jumping on the board, though, follow that leadership triangle. You're going to want to build your NCTM resume as a member, as a presenter, as an author, as a committee member, before you should consider being on the board. Now, on the board, it's a 3-year term, and there's 4 new members annually. So every year, 4 new members join the board, and 4 members go off the board. If you're a teacher, you get a support package for being on the board, because NCTM recognizes the value of having teachers on the board. So that support package includes the sub costs are reimbursed to your district. Your school receives $1,000 per year. Your school also receives 4 complimentary conference registrations, and your school receives all new NCTM books and publications. So it's really a very generous package because NCTM recognizes that, yes, they need teacher voices on their board. And again, the nomination, that link goes to the nomination. That nomination takes 5 minutes or less to complete. So if you're thinking about it, or if you know someone who should do it, go ahead and nominate yourself or nominate someone else. Okay, so final time. Let's take a last look at this leadership triangle. And I'll tell you, the biggest mistake people make in developing leaders is they look at the tip of that triangle and they think about, how do we get people to be members of the board of our organization? When really we need to think about every step in that triangle. How do we build a strong base? From that base, how do we recruit people every step of the way, which is going to help us recruit people to be on our boards? All right. I hope you have learned something and gained something over the past 30 minutes or so, and I hope I've given you some things to think about. Like I said, I don't have all the solutions, but hopefully together we can all build stronger affiliates for our own states or organizations. All right, so one last time, here's my contact information. I encourage you to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you have or help you in any way I can. And take care and have a wonderful leadership conference.